Major Ross Ellis and his rifle company of the Calgary Highlanders from Canada trudge warily through the waterlogged countryside.
There was very little hard ground in the fall of 1944 because it was a very rainy period of time. And the Germans were using the polder land to stop the movement of our vehicles.
Retreating German forces have blown dikes to flood the Dutch fields called polders to slow the Allied advance.
Sometimes you had to go down into these polders without the armored vehicles and the trucks, and you had to immerse yourself in water. You had to fight in water for days and sometimes even weeks at a time.
The dikes provide some protection from enemy fire, but it comes at a cost.
The reality is that you can't get at the enemy by sitting behind a dike.
Knowing how much faster they could advance up on the dikes, the Canadians use a risky strategy to target the enemy. They position one man as bait to draw German fire. While others advance below as spotters.
When he hears enemy fire, whether it's sniper fire, machine gun fire, then they basically know which polder the enemy is in, how far away he is, and then they begin to lay plans to try to eliminate him.
The Canadians call in the German positions and order artillery or an infantry assault against them. It is a suicidal tactic which relies on quick reflexes and a lot of luck.
It took me a long time to understand that. You're just going to pretend that the next 10 or 12 meters are going to be okay and you're going to survive that. And I guess if you don't survive it, you're never going to know it.
The Canadians repeat it over and over as they make their way through Holland. Ellis and the men of the Calgary Highlanders have been fighting in this terrain for weeks to clear access to the port of Antwerp, captured in early September.
The Allies managed to capture Antwerp intact, to the astonishment, in fact, of the British, but also to the horror of Hitler and Wehrmacht headquarters. They did not imagine that the British were advancing so quickly. So when the 11th Armored Division actually seized the port intact with the help of the Belgian resistance, it was an extraordinary coup.
Antwerp can solve a major problem for the Allies.
Antwerp was absolutely vital because it was the only deep water port which was close to the German border and for the advance into Germany. Because the distance all the way from Normandy, bringing supplies, fuel, ammunition by lorry with the Red Wall Express was simply not feasible or not viable for much longer.
But before the Navy can open the port, the Army needs to clear the surrounding Scheldt estuary, which remains firmly under Nazi control. But clearing and securing ports is not considered a glamorous objective when there is a war to be won.
The trouble was that Montgomery was so excited about the possibility of getting across the Rhine before the Americans that he felt that in the case of Antwerp, that could be sorted out later.
British General Bernard Montgomery convinces Supreme Commander General Dwight D. Eisenhower to back his plan to cross the Rhine. He assigns the British 30 Corps to pursue Operation Market Garden, leaving a meager force to deal with clearing access to Antwerp. He will be considered among Montgomery's greatest mistakes as a general. He fails to allocate the resources to solve the Allies' critical supply problem, and
Montgomery's decision to divert 30 Corps to the Arnhem means that the Germans have got time to bring 82,000 men, 4,000 lorries, and over 500 artillery pieces to the north bank of the river Scheldt. So, it's perhaps a bit of an exaggeration, but it is a kind of mini Dunkirk.
Now, after much delay and fighting through water for weeks, the Calgary Highlanders must complete the clearance of the Scheldt Peninsula and the final German stronghold, Walcheren Island, which controls access to the port of Antwerp.